Hello and welcome to English Story House. Today's story is emotional, sad, and full of love, fear, misunderstanding, and hope. It will also help you improve your English listening and vocabulary through simple English and real-life emotions. As you listen, try to imagine every scene, every word, and every feeling. This is the story of a young wife who thought her husband no longer loved her, but the truth behind his silence was something she never expected. My name is Lucy, and I'm 28 years old. I live in a small town in England. I work at a little bookshop near the town center. My life was never exciting, but I was happy with simple things. A warm cup of tea in the morning, rain against my bedroom window, a good book before bed, and, most importantly, my husband, James. When I married James, I thought I would grow old with him. I really believed that. We had a small wedding in spring. It was not a big wedding. There were only our families and a few close friends. I remember standing beside James that day. He held my hands and looked into my eyes. "You look beautiful, Lucy," he whispered. I smiled. "And you look nervous." He laughed softly. "I am nervous." "Why?" "Because I'm about to marry the woman I love." I laughed, but my eyes filled with tears. That was the happiest day of my life. After the wedding, we moved into a small house with a little garden. It was not perfect. The kitchen was old, and one of the bedroom windows did not close properly. But it was our home. I loved waking up beside James. I loved making breakfast for us. Sometimes we sat in the kitchen before work, drinking tea and talking about our plans. We talked about traveling. We talked about having children one day. We even talked about buying a bigger house. James always said, "We'll do it together." I believed him. But only a few months after our wedding, things began to change. At first, it was small. James started coming home late. He used to call me when he was going to be late. Then the call stopped. One evening, I was sitting at the kitchen table waiting for him. It was nearly 9 o'clock. The food was cold. Finally, I heard the front door open. James walked into the kitchen. "You're late," I said gently. "I know." "Are you okay?" "I'm tired, Lucy." He took off his coat and walked upstairs. I looked at the dinner on the table. I didn't understand. The man who once told me everything now told me almost nothing. A week later, I tried again. We were having breakfast. "James?" "Yes?" "Is something wrong between us?" He stopped eating. "No." "You don't talk to me anymore." "I'm just tired." "You've been tired for weeks." He looked at me. For a moment, I thought he would tell me the truth. Instead, he said, "Please don't make this difficult." Those words hurt more than I expected. I looked down at my tea. I just miss my husband. James said nothing. That night, I cried quietly in bed. James was lying beside me, but he felt very far away. I wondered if he still loved me. I wondered if he regretted marrying me. And worst of all, I wondered if I had done something wrong. Then, one night, I saw something that frightened me. I woke up at about 2 in the morning. James was not beside me. I got out of bed and walked towards the bathroom. The door was almost closed. I heard a strange sound inside. It sounded like someone was crying. James! The room became silent. He opened the door. His face looked pale. Why are you awake? I heard you. It's nothing. He tried to walk past me, but then I saw something in his hand, a small white medicine bottle. What is that? I asked. James quickly put it into his pocket. Medicine. For what? He looked at me. For 1 second, I saw fear in his eyes. Then his face became cold again. It's nothing, Lucy. Go back to bed. I stood there, watching him walk away. Something was wrong. I knew it. But I didn't know how serious it was. And I had no idea that the little bottle I saw that night would change our marriage forever. The next morning, I woke up early. For a few seconds, I forgot about the night before. Then I remembered the medicine bottle. I turned to James. He was still sleeping. I looked at his face. He looked tired. I wanted to wake him and ask him everything, but I was afraid of his answer. So I got out of bed quietly and went downstairs. I made 2 cups of tea. When James came into the kitchen, I put his cup on the table. Morning, I said. Morning. He sat down. I watched him for a moment. James? Yes? What medicine are you taking? His hand stopped. Then he looked at me. I told you, it's nothing. But you were crying last night. I wasn't crying. I heard you. He stood up. Lucy, please. Please what? Just leave it alone. I felt tears in my eyes. I am your wife. How can I leave it alone? He looked away. For a moment, I thought he might tell me, but he only said, I don't want to talk about it. Then he left for work. I sat alone at the kitchen table. I felt like a stranger in my own home. Days passed. James became even quieter. He stopped saying good morning. He stopped asking about my day. When I cooked dinner, he sometimes said he had already eaten. When I asked him to come for a walk, he said he was too tired. One Saturday, I bought tickets for a small concert. I thought it might help us. When I showed him the tickets, he didn't even smile. I'm not going. Why? I don't feel like it. But James, we haven't done anything together for weeks. He sighed. Lucy, I don't want to go. I put the tickets on the table. Do you still love me? He looked at me. I waited. My heart was beating very fast. I don't know, he said. I felt like the room had suddenly become cold. What does that mean? I don't know what I feel anymore. I tried to stay calm. Did I do something wrong? No. Is there another woman? His eyes became wide. No. Then what is it? He said nothing. I walked away before he could see me cry. That evening, I went to bed early. I didn't sleep. I looked at my wedding ring. It was still beautiful, but now it felt heavy on my finger. I remembered James smiling at our wedding. I remembered his words. I love you. Had those words really been true? The next week, something happened that broke my heart. I was cleaning the house when I found a brown envelope on the kitchen table. It had James's name on it. I wasn't trying to read his private things, but the envelope was already open. I saw the name of a hospital. My heart started beating faster. I picked up the papers. Before I could read them, James came through the front door. He saw the papers in my hand. "Lucy!" I jumped. "What is this?" He quickly took them from me. "Why are you reading my things?" I wasn't reading them. I just saw the hospital name. "Give me some privacy." His voice was louder than I had ever heard before. I stared at him. "Why are you shouting at me?" He looked sorry for a moment, but then he turned away. "I'm sorry." I wiped my tears. "Tell me what is happening." "Nothing is happening." "That's not true." He didn't answer. I stepped closer. "Are you sick?" He closed his eyes. Then he whispered, "Maybe you should leave me." My heart stopped. "What?" "You heard me." "Why would you say that?" "Because this marriage was a mistake." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "A mistake?" "Yes." I felt something inside me break. "Then why did you marry me?" He looked at me. His eyes were full of sadness, but his voice was cold. "Maybe I never loved you the way you thought I did." I started crying. I didn't want him to see my tears, so I went upstairs. I opened our wardrobe. I took out a small suitcase. I put in some clothes. My hands were shaking. I didn't know where I would go. I only knew that I couldn't stay. Before I left, I stopped at the bedroom door. James was sitting alone on the bed. His head was in his hands. I almost called his name, but then I heard him make a quiet crying sound. I froze. He didn't know I was there, and for the first time, I wondered, if James really didn't love me anymore, why was he crying after telling me to leave? I stood outside the bedroom for a few seconds. I could hear James crying. My hand was still on the suitcase. I wanted to go inside. I wanted to ask him why, but I was hurt, very hurt. So I quietly walked downstairs. I left the house without saying goodbye. That night, I stayed at my friend Hannah's flat. Hannah opened the door and hugged me. She didn't ask many questions. She just looked at my face and said, "You can stay here." I put my suitcase on the floor. "Thank you." Then I started crying. Hannah made me a cup of tea. We sat on her sofa. I told her everything, the late nights, the cold words, the medicine bottle, the hospital envelope, and finally, the words James had said. "Maybe I never loved you the way you thought I did." Hannah looked angry. "He shouldn't have said that to you." "I know." "Lucy, you can't blame yourself." "I keep thinking about what I did wrong." "You didn't do anything wrong?" I wanted to believe her, but it was difficult. The next morning, I decided to go back to my house, not to stay, just to collect the rest of my things. I didn't expect James to be there. When I opened the front door, the house was quiet. "James?" No answer. I walked into the kitchen. On the table was my wedding ring, I had forgotten it there. I picked it up. Then I noticed something beside it. The brown hospital envelope. My heart started beating quickly. I knew I shouldn't open it, but this time I couldn't walk away. I opened the envelope. There were several papers inside. I didn't understand all the medical words, but I understood enough. James was seriously ill. He had a serious illness that needed treatment. There were hospital appointments. There were test results. There were words like treatment and risk. My hands started shaking. I sat down. No. Suddenly, everything came back to me. The medicine bottle, his tired face, the crying in the bathroom, the nights he came home late, the way he looked at me when I asked if he still loved me. He wasn't tired of me. He was sick. I started crying. Then I found something else inside the envelope. A letter. It had my name on it. Lucy. I opened it with shaking hands. The first line made my heart hurt. My dear Lucy, if you are reading this, then I have finally lost the courage to tell you the truth. I continued reading. James wrote that he had been sick for some time. When he first found out, he was afraid. Not only of the illness, he was afraid of losing me. He wrote, I wanted to tell you, but every time I looked at you, I remembered our wedding day. You were so happy. I didn't want to take that happiness away. Tears fell onto the letter. Then I read the part that broke my heart. I thought if I made you hate me, leaving me would be easier for you. I covered my mouth. All those cold words. All those days when I thought he didn't love me. He had been trying to push me away. Not because he hated me. Because he loved me. But he had made the decision for both of us. And that hurt too. I kept reading. You deserve a husband who can give you a normal life. You deserve children, holidays, laughter, and a future without hospitals. I don't want you to spend your life looking after me. I cried harder. James! I looked around our little kitchen, the same kitchen where we had once talked about our future, the same table where he used to hold my hand. Then I saw one final sentence. If you leave, please don't blame yourself. I will always love you. I couldn't sit there anymore. I grabbed my coat and ran outside. I knew where he would be. There was a small park near our house. Before we got married, James and I used to sit there on Sunday mornings. When I arrived, I saw him sitting on our old bench. He looked tired. I walked towards him. He looked up. His face changed when he saw me. Lucy! I sat beside him. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then I held out the letter. I read it. James looked down. I didn't want you to find that. Why didn't you tell me? He looked at the trees. Because I was scared. You should have trusted me. I know. You didn't give me a choice. His eyes filled with tears. I thought I was protecting you. I shook my head. You weren't protecting me, James. He looked at me. You were breaking my heart. He lowered his head. I am sorry. I took his hand. For the first time in weeks, I felt his hand in mine again. And I realized something. I had spent so many days thinking my husband had stopped loving me. But the truth was much more painful. He loved me so much that he was willing to let me hate him. And now I had one decision to make. I could walk away, or I could stay. I looked into his tired eyes. "Come home with me," I whispered. He stared at me. "Lucy, you don't have to do this." "I know." I squeezed his hand. "But I want to." For the first time in many weeks, James cried in front of me. And this time, I didn't walk away. James and I sat on the park bench for a long time. Neither of us spoke. His hand was still in mine. It felt strange. Only one day before, I had packed my suitcase because I thought my marriage was over. Now I knew the truth. My husband was sick, and he had been trying to hide it from me. Finally, James looked at me. "Lucy, are you sure?" I nodded. "I am sure. But you don't know what will happen." "I know. You may become unhappy." "Maybe." "You may regret staying." I looked at him. "James, I might regret many things in my life, but I don't want to regret leaving you when you needed me." He looked down. I was so afraid. "I know." "I thought you would leave me when you found out." "I almost did." He looked surprised. I smiled sadly. "Not because you are sick, because you lied to me." He nodded slowly. "You're right." "If you had told me the truth, I could have made my own choice." "I know." "You don't have to protect me by hurting me." James wiped his eyes. "I'm sorry." I held his hand. "Then don't hide anything from me again." He promised. That evening, we went home together. Our little house looked exactly the same, but somehow, everything felt different. I put my suitcase back in the bedroom. James watched me quietly. "You don't have to stay tonight," he said. I turned around. "This is my home, too." He smiled for the first time in many days. It wasn't a big smile, but it was real. I went into the kitchen. "What do you want for dinner?" He laughed softly. "You're asking me that now?" "Yes." "I don't know." "I'll make your favorite." "Pasta." "Of course." We cooked together. James cut the vegetables while I made the sauce. We talked about small things. The weather, my work, his hospital appointment, the broken window in the bedroom. It felt normal, and I had missed normal. After dinner, we sat on the sofa and looked at our wedding photographs. There was one picture of us standing together. James was smiling. I was laughing. We looked so happy. He touched the picture. "I wish I could go back to that day." "Why?" "So I could tell myself not to be afraid." I looked at him. "Maybe we needed this." He looked surprised. "This?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I thought marriage meant being happy every day." I paused. But now I understand that marriage is not always about happiness. James listened. Sometimes it is about fear. Sometimes it is about pain. Sometimes it is about sitting beside someone when you don't know what tomorrow will bring. He held my hand. And sometimes, I said, it is about choosing each other again. His eyes filled with tears. That night, we went upstairs. Before sleeping, James said, "Lucy?" "Yes?" "Thank you for staying." I smiled. "Thank you for finally telling me the truth." He looked at me. "I love you." I felt tears in my eyes. "I love you too." The next morning, we went to the hospital together. The road there was quiet. James looked nervous. I held his hand. "You don't have to be strong every second," I told him. He smiled. "Neither do you." The treatment was not easy. There were difficult days. There were hospital visits. There were nights when we were both afraid. But we faced them together. Some days were better than others. And slowly, I learned that love was not about promising that everything would be perfect. Love was about being honest. It was about staying when life became difficult. It was about giving the other person a choice. Months later, I found the old hospital letter in a drawer. I read it again. Then I put it away. I didn't need to keep living in that painful moment. James was sitting in the garden. I walked outside and sat beside him. He looked at me. "What are you thinking about?" I smiled. "The day I thought my marriage was ending." He looked worried. "Do you regret coming back?" I shook my head. "No." Then I looked at our little garden. The same garden where we had once dreamed about our future. I understood something important. That day was not really the last day of my marriage. It was the last day of the marriage I thought I had. After that day, we started a new marriage. A more honest one, a stronger one where we stopped pretending that everything was perfect. And I learned one lesson I will never forget. Never push away the person you love because you are afraid of hurting them. Tell them the truth. Let them choose. Sometimes love is not about saving someone from pain. Sometimes love means standing beside them while they face it. And if I had to choose again, I would still choose James. Not because I knew what tomorrow would bring, but because I finally understood that love is not a promise of a perfect future. It is a promise to face the future together.